horrible death rattle as they crept slowly toward me. Then the feeling came to me, and I knew what I had to do. The giant represents the source of all your woes. He is your mind. He is the demon you must cut through. Don't be deluded like the fallen warrior. Keep your focus. Absurdly, my mind commented, one hell of a time for a lesson. Then I was back to my immediate predicament, feeling an icy calm. I lay down on my back, and closed my eyes, as if surrendering to my fate, the sword in my hands, its blade across my chest and cheek. The illusions could fool my eyes, but not my ears. Only the real swordsman would make a sound as he walked. I heard him behind me. He had only two choices, to walk away, or to kill. He chose to kill. I listened intently. Just as I sensed his sword about to cut downward, I drove my blade upward with all my might, and felt it pierce, tearing upward through cloth, flesh, and muscle. A terrible scream, and I heard the thud of his body. Face down, impaled on my sword, was the demon. "You almost didn't come back that time," said Socrates. His brows were knitted. I ran to the bathroom, where I was immediately thoroughly sick. When I came out, he had made some chamomile tea with licorice, for the nerves in the stomach. I started to tell Socrates about the journey. "I was hiding in the bush behind you, watching the whole thing," he interrupted. "I nearly snoozed once. Sure glad I didn't. I certainly wasn't anxious to tangle with that character. For a moment, I thought I was going to have to, but you handled yourself pretty well, Dan." "Why thanks, Soc." I beamed. On the other hand, you seem to have missed the point that nearly cost you your life." Now it was my turn to interrupt him. "The main point I was concerned with was at the end of that giant's blade," I joked. "And I didn't miss the point. Is that so, Soc?" "I've been battling illusions my whole life, preoccupied with every petty personal problem. I've dedicated my life to self-improvement without grasping the one problem that sent me seeking in the first place. While trying to make everything in the world work out for me, I always succumbed to my own mind. Always preoccupied with me. The giant is my only real problem in life, it's my mind." And Socrates said with growing excitement, just realizing what I'd done, "I cut throat." "There was no doubt about that," he said. "What would have happened if the giant had won? What then?" "Don't talk of such things," he said darkly. "I want to know. Would I have really died?" "Very likely," he said. "At the very least, you would have gone mad." Teakettle began to shriek. The mountain path Socrates poured steaming hot tea into our twin mugs, and spoke the first encouraging words I'd heard in many months. "Your survival in the duel is real evidence that you're ready to progress further toward the one goal." "What's that?" "When you discover that, you'll already be there. In the meantime, your training can now move to a different arena. A change. A sign of progress." I was getting excited. "Finally we're going to get moving again," I thought. "Socrates," I asked, "what different arena are you referring to?" "For one thing, I am no longer going to be an answer machine. We're going to have to find the answers from within. And you begin now. Go out back, behind the station, behind the trash bin. There, in the very corner of the lot, against the wall, you'll find a large flat stone. Sit on that stone until you have something of value to tell me." I paused. "That's all?" "That's it. Sit and open your mind to your own inner wisdom." I went outside, found the rock, and sat in the darkness. First, random thoughts drifted through my mind. Then I thought of all the important concepts I'd learned in my years at school. An hour went by, then 2, then 3. The sun would rise in another few hours, and I was getting cold. I began to slow my breathing, and to vividly imagine my belly as warm. Before long, I felt comfortable again. Dawn came. The only thing that I could think of to tell him was a realization I'd had during a psychology lecture. I got up on Sif, saw Lex and hobbled into the office. Socrates, looking relaxed and comfortable at his desk, said, "Ah, so soon? Well, what is it?" I was almost embarrassed to say it, but hoped he'd be satisfied. "Okay, Soc. Beneath all our apparent differences we all share the same human needs and fears. We're all on the same path together, guiding one another. And that understanding can give us compassion. Not bad. back to the rock. But it's going to be dawn, you're leaving. That's no problem, he grinned. I'm sure you'll have thought of something by tonight. Tonight, he pointed out the door. Sitting on the rock, my whole body aching, I thought back to my childhood. I considered my past, searching for insights. I tried to compress all that had transpired in the months with Socrates into a witty aphorism. I thought of the classes I was missing, and the gymnastics workout I'd have to miss, and the excuse I'd give the coach. Maybe I'd tell him I had been sitting on a rock in a gas station. That would be a crazy enough story to make him laugh. The sun crept with agonizing slowness across the sky. Sat, hungry, irritated, then depressed, as darkness fell. I had nothing for Socrates. Then, just about the time he was due in, it came to me. He wanted something deep, something more cosmic. I concentrated with renewed effort. Saw him walk into the office, waving to me. I redoubled my efforts. Then, about midnight, I had it. I couldn't even walk, so I stretched for a few minutes, before shuffling into the office. I've seen beneath people's social masks to their common fears and troubled minds, and that has made me cynical, because I haven't yet been able to get beyond all that to see the light within them. I figured that was a revelation of major proportions. Excellent, Sock announced. Just as I started to sigh, he added, but not quite what I had in mind. Can't you bring me something more moving? I roared with anger at no one in particular, and stomped out to my philosopher's stone. Something more moving, he had said. Was that a hint? I naturally thought back to my recent workouts in the gymnastics room. My teammates now clucked about me like mother hens. Recently I was doing giant swings around the high bar, missed a pirouette change, and had to jump off from the top of the bar. I knew I was going to land on my feet pretty hard, but before I even hit the ground, Sid and Herb caught me in midair, and set me down gently. Be careful, Dan, Sid scolded. You want to snap your leg before it heals? None of that seemed very relevant to my present situation, but I let my awareness relax, hoping that maybe the feeling would advise me. Nothing. I was getting so stiff, and sore I couldn't concentrate anymore. I didn't think it would be cheating to stand on the rock and practice a few flowing movements of Tai Chi, the Chinese form of slow-motion exercise that Sock had shown me. As I bent my knees and gracefully rocked back and forth, my hips turning, and arms floating in the air, I let my breath control the shifting of my weight. My mind emptied, then filled with a scene. A few days before, I had jogged slowly and carefully to Provo Square, in the middle of Berkeley, across from City Hall and directly adjacent to Berkeley High School. To help relax, I began swaying back and forth in the movements of Tai Chi. I concentrated on softness and balance, feeling like seaweed floating in the ocean. A few boys and girls from the high school stopped and watched me, but I paid them no attention, letting my concentration flow with the movements. When I finished and walked over to put my sweatpants back on over my running shorts, my ordinary awareness reasserted itself. I wonder if I looked good. My attention was captured by two pretty teenagers who were watching me and giggling. I guess those girls are impressed.